All right. Gotta put those on. Okay, as real as German gets. I don't know. Who knows? What does it say? Made in Germany? I doubt it. Supposed to be. Guys see it anywhere? Lighting's terrible. I got light coming up here. It's no fun. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and fit this flywheel on here. First thing I gotta do is, looks like I gotta take off these nibs right here on the ends. And there's like a little bump right there that's gotta be shaved down. It's just a little bit different. It's a tight fit. Might have to take just a little bit off of here. Can't take anything off. Remember that first 1/4 inch or whatever? That's a machine surface right there. So I can take this part off. I don't know if you can see what I'm talking about. This part you can take off, but this part over here, no, no, no. So past that little step, can't go. I mean, we can take some of that step down, but past that, can't take anything off of that. So same thing over here. I'm gonna do a little bit right here, this bump. Take that down and go from there. Keep fitting this flywheel on. Got our gland nut on here. Okay, let's get busy. All right, so I tightened up the choke. Let's do a little cold start here and see if it starts okay. We got a little starter issue here. Give it a pump or two. Almost wants to start without getting the jumper box out. Not gonna be that nice. All right, we're gonna teach you a lesson. Oh, come on. It's gonna teach me one, I think. No, that's not gonna happen. Hold on, guys. All right. Yes, you're just not being fun. Needs 2 hands. Okay. Gotta get serious. Put 2 hands on it, or it's just not gonna be good. One more time. No. Okay, we're done with that. At least we heard it run. That's as far as I'm going with it. So you can see there's a pretty heavy step here. I don't want to take it all the way off, just because remember, you see that. I don't know if you guys can really see that. Let's get you. All right, this edge right here is machined, and then beyond that, where I'm grinding, that's area that needs to be taken down. So I'm going to take this down all the way around, a little bit all the way around it, because you can see that heavy edge around here. If you look over here, hardly anything, very little. So I got to take it down a little bit around here, around to this side, and that's it. So, you know, I've already taken off here. the flywheel goes on right now, and sometimes you can even, you know, once it gets to a certain point, sometimes you can start the engine. Usually that's what I'll do. I get it to a certain point, and then when I put the engine in, I might have to loosen it up a little bit. Loosen the engine up, start it, and then run it and move it back and forth. That's kind of why I didn't really want to put the engine in the car to test it, because what if I heard, you know, thought I was hearing this and it was something else. So anyway, it just makes sense to test it out of the car when you have to do all this work here. So it's not that much. It just, you know, almost a 1/16 of an inch I got to take off of there, and it doesn't take long. It's magnesium. Best way to go is use one of these here, and then if I had my WD-40, it'd be real handy, and then lubricate this, because that'll keep the stuff from getting stuck in it. Otherwise, if you don't put any lube on there, it'll keep getting caked, you know, magnesium in it. And then be careful not to hit the steel, because it is magnesium. You don't want to start a fire. Anyway, things to think about. All right, so when you put the flywheel on, you measure from this end right here, 1.5 inches in, and that's where it sets. So it's right up next to here, and some of this part here tapers like that. You know, I'm kind of over exaggerating it. So you got to grind here sometimes. It just depends. Every flywheel's different, and every bell housing's a little different. It's just cast, you know, and like I said, if you leave that very edge, that's where the engine sets in there. So this can be ground down here, but you just can't touch the very edge here, and like right here, you can't do anything with that. No grinding over here. The first whatever that is, between 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch, you can't touch that. So I got to grind here. I got to grind up in here. I can see the flywheel's been hitting right here, 1.5 inches in. If we measure from here in 1.5 inches with their tape measure, that's what I end up with. So I'm gonna ride that out, finish that up, and check this out, guys. German boots fail, you know, lovely. Expensive as they are, well, maybe I put MP on something else. I know I had to put MP on something, and maybe they're better. I don't know. There it is, made in Germany, and that one's made in Germany. And they weren't, I didn't have these things, you don't want these on top. That's a big fail. You want them on the front or back. Usually I put them on the front. And put them at, like, some people say like that. Some people say like this. Just a little bit up, but almost level. Because if you have them, I don't know if this would be this way, right? At basically at, what is it, half 90 degrees, go just a little bit above that, because then they won't leak as much when you jack it up. That's what I usually do, and then they don't leak. But if you have them on the top like this, that seam right there, when you jack up your car, it will make the bottom overstretch, and yeah, you'll ruin a new set of boots within 6 months. So yeah, these ones were on here just a couple of years and completely rotten and cracked. Made in Germany. Not the same German I used to know. Anyway, that's the frustrations of Volkswagens today. Yep, made in Germany. Total failage. Wasn't my fault either. I put them on right. So anyway, yeah, I often wonder, maybe you should get the cheap ones and let me know. I mean, if you guys have been trying the cheap ones and you've had luck with them, let me know. Because this is frustrating. These are super expensive. I mean, they've gone way up in price, and if the quality's that bad, then you know, every one of them I've had is cracked. So and I put them on with the seam forward like that, not like this. I don't put them on like that. You guys saw it was like this. I kind of put it level. The next set of I'm going to put on level. I did them a little bit like that, but You know, usually that's fine. It's been fine for 30 years, and you know, 30 years ago that was okay. But it's kind of frustrating. Part quality is terrible. It's just like, I don't know, maybe they're getting made in China now and they're just reboxing them or something. I don't know. Or maybe what's happened is the environmentalists have gone after all the chemicals that they use to make these things work and said, oh, you can't use that anymore. So they're just trying to make it work, but the quality's awful. Maybe they are better in China because of that. You know, China doesn't care. Anyway, who knows? Be nice to know, because I hate changing these. I'd much rather change the other ones. Change the, you know, I mean, once I put on the other ones, I've put on the old German. I had some of those. They've been on my other buses, like the ones I've had the axles off of those. So when I have the axles off, I'll replace them. But with the solid boot, and those have lasted 6, 7, 8 years, no problems. So it's worth it, you guys, if you got your engine, if you got your car apart, and you got your transmission out, and you don't have gear reduction boxes, to pull the axle and put on the seamless boot like I show you in the video, because you just roll it on. You know, it's not that hard to do. I have the videos on that. So if you have your car apart and you have a bug, take the axles off and put on the seamless boots, unless you want to do this all the time. They don't last at all. So anyway, good luck. Yeah, legit ones too. Look, they had the square headed bolts. I was going to show you the same. So yeah, these were Phoebe. These were Phoebe Bilstein. Fail. So for the clutch, we're doing one of these Exceedy clutches. They're solid. They don't have the springs in it, so it's a little stronger. And this is a 1,700 pound clutch plate. It's not because we're going to be, you know, race shifting and everything. We're not trying to break the trans. It's just because we've got more torque, more horsepower, and we got a lot of weight. So we don't want it to slip. So anyway, we'll just go with that. And I get these pretty reasonable, so it works pretty good. All right, guys, this is how I get it. Where I can put this up here and I kind of center it, and I can still turn it. You're never going to get it to where it just turns freely, because there just isn't enough room in here. It's very tight, if you can see, because when it's lifted up, it actually doesn't hit. But what I'll do usually is I'll get it like that, and then when I start it up, it's usually going to scrape just for about 20 seconds or so, and then it finds a home and it's fine. Sometimes I'll put the engine in, and it won't even turn over. I won't be able to get it to crank over, and so I'll just loosen up a couple of bolts and try it and just work it until it does, and then I'll start the engine and just start tightening them up, and use that does it. So anyway, yeah, that's just the way it goes. It's no it's not rocket science or anything. It's just the way you put it in there. It's really tight in these early cases, so you can see it's got play, you know, and it's probably got one or two little spots it's going to kiss on a little bit, but it will turn over, believe me. Done a few of them. I don't like to do it, but you know, I had to go. You know, I could go conversion flywheel, which is the 200 millimeter 6 volt, and then use a 6 volt starter that was in it. But the problem with that is, then I've got to 8-dowel the crank, so I could do that. We've got the jig to do that. But the other issue is, this is an O-ring crank, and it would be a step flywheel. So those things don't work together really well. So it's best to just wallow it out and start fresh. Because if you have the step on the crank, that's the 1500 crank. You know, I don't want to use a 1500 crank. You know, no, they just weren't that good. People go, oh well, they're okay. No, they weren't as good as the O-ring style or the later model or the, you know. That's why they upgraded all that stuff, guys. Volkswagen realized they had issues and they fix them. I want to talk to you guys real quick about the light and flywheel. A lot of people go, why did you use the light and flywheel? I could have used a heavy flywheel. I have an 8-dowel. I don't have it, but a friend of mine has the 8-dowel drill set up to do the crank and the flywheel. The reason I went with the light and flywheel is because when you go counterweighted, you're adding the counterweights in there. And the counterweights are what takes up for the heaviness of the flywheel. Okay, so the extra counterweights on there, that's why reason a lot of the guys go with the light and flywheel. It's not because it revs quicker or anything like that. It's just you already have the counterweights doing the job that the flywheel is doing. And basically with the stock setup, you had no counterweight, so you had all this stress going all the way through the crankshaft to the flywheel. It's much stronger and a lot more stable to run the counterweighted crankshaft. I mean, hey, you guys, Porsche, same thing, guys. The 912 has a 74 crank, basically almost the same setup as what's in here, with the same, almost the same rod lengths, and you don't need the heaviness in the flywheel anymore because you've got the engineering to go right to the counterweights. So it doesn't need to go crank through all that stuff and go to the flywheel. That's why when you put a light and flywheel on a stock crankshaft, I really don't do that. It just gets all wobbly. But this is not, because it's, if you notice when it idles, it didn't wobble a lot. Whereas if it had the stock crankshaft and I had this light and flywheel on it, it would wobble all over the place because it needs that extra weight for the firing. So it already has it in the crankshaft with this, so counterweighted. All right, that's why you do it, if you didn't know. A lot of times you get these at O'Reilly Auto Parts now. People go, oh, that little bitty thing. Yeah, these things are mean. They actually put out some serious starting power. All right. Yeah, these little mini starters, they're the high torque, I think. Because man, they rip. The only bummer is with these is your starter bolt. Actually, I was gonna check and see if it had a shoulder. The starter bolt can back all the way out, so that's a bummer. It can be putting the engine in and all of a sudden, blink, ding, 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 starter bolt's out. Okay. Another thing you need to do is change the bushing to the conversion bushing. The one that comes with it is useless because it's for a 12 volt if you're doing a conversion from 6 volt to 12 volt. So anyway, can't use that one. I'll save it for something else. Some of the reasons I don't film putting the engines in is because of this, and I wanted to show you guys this because you might be running the same type of thing. This is just going just like the oval window. If you watch the oval window engine putting it in, it's not lining up, and there's a lot of complications here. We've got, a new bell housing, so that's an issue. But we've also got a parts issue. I mean, these are made in Japan. It's supposed to be really good quality. And you could not put this shaft all the way in. Now, I've taken it off now, and I've just been beating on it and getting it to where it slides on and off pretty well. But what was going on? The thing is, it wasn't even going that far. I mean, it was just right here and the end, like about 1/8 of an inch in, it was getting all boogered up. So before you put your engine in, and this is something I've always done, and I did this time, of course, and it didn't seem to work, is always put this on your splines, and then see how that's just not wanting to go in right away. It needs to just go right in. If it has any issue like that, a little tiny bit, when you got that weight of that engine, it's going to give you problems. So yeah, I got to clean these splines again. They were fine for the last clutch, and I've done it, like I said, I've had this engine in and out of here 3 or 4 times now, and every time I take it out, the first 1/8 of an inch is all boogered up. So another thing that I do too is fighting a lot of things. You know, there's a lot of different things going on. You got a bigger engine. So if you got a early car and you're trying to put a bigger engine in, look where the heater boxes hit. Because see, this engine's, I don't know, whatever it is, 1/8 of an inch or a 1/4 of an inch wider than the other one. So the heater boxes hit right here on the metal right there. And yeah, you can, you know, you can finagle it. You can take a hammer and a pry bar or something and knock it past it every time you put the engine in and out. But it's a lot easier if you notch it. A lot of guys do this. You'll see cars with these notched. People go, oh my God, you ruined the original. Okay, these are not, it's not an original engine anymore, so it's no big deal. You know, you're not going to hurt something like this. This truck, you know, is not going to run under its own power on the original engine. There's no way to do that because it was never engineered to drive on the freeways, and that's the kind of thing that we're trying to do a little bit now. Not long ways. I don't take it really far, but anyway, so yeah, I've had this off and on here, I don't know how many times now, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. Had the engine in, back out. You know, some of them just go right in, and then some of them are like this, and you just gotta fight it and work on it. You know, I've been on this thing now about 6, 7 hours just to get the engine from the ground into the hole. You know, it just seems crazy, but you know, it's just the way it is sometimes. And people go, whoa, if you charge like $200 to put an engine in, you know, it's like, no, you can't even do that on these old cars. You have to, so if somebody goes, well, you start a shop or whatever, if you ever do that, charge by the hour only. That's the only way you can do it. Because the parts, and this is a parts issue. This casting right here, even though it's made in Japan, you know, this is supposed to be made in Japan. I bet that hub right there was not. And it was assembled in Japan, because that hub did not have even, I could not put that shaft, and I use an input shaft to line the clutch up, because this is really the best way to do it. It would not go this direction. I could not take this and push it in. In fact, I'm still having trouble doing it. So what's happening is once it gets in there so far, it's going to bind up. And when it's got all that weight of that engine in there, it's going in this way okay now. Still, see how it just doesn't, kind of wants to go in. You get that engine just a little bit crooked, and it's not going to want to go in. And now it's going in all the way. It was not doing that before. I could get it down about, you know, well, first thing I had to do is clean up the first 1/8 inch, because it gets beat up as soon as I put it in there. And like I said, I tested this with this thing before I did, and it seemed to be okay. Everything seemed to be fine. As soon as I get that engine in there, start wiggling it around, it just gets boogered up. So then they got a side here, you got to put it on. Listen, you know, it goes on. It seems to go on one way, but if you put it on another direction, you know, it seems fine. It's okay. But some reason it's not. So I got to clean it really clean. Just make sure it just goes on there like butter, and then maybe it'll go in eventually. And once it, you know, once, the funny thing is, once I run it once and drive it, it'll probably come out and go back in. You know, most of my buses, you know, I had the bus, the engine out of the red bus, the dark red bus, I don't know how many times, a couple of times, and it comes right out. I had to take the gas tank out, so I had to take the engine out, pull the gas tank out, and it came out, no problem, went right back in, no problem, just one push, whoop, right in. So like I said, it's not every car, it's just some of them. I don't know, it's just parts stuff and, you know, whatever. So anyway, it can be a real pain in the ass just to slide the engine in. It seems like it would be nothing, but it's in the way it is sometimes. Old car stuff. Alright guys, I wanted to show you what we ended up with here. Still got to clean everything and wash all the cobwebs and yuck out of here. I'm sitting for over 6 months now. So anyway, what we ended up doing here is I've got the engine in now. I've got everything. like even this is the relay for the fan. The fan's underneath here, and you can kind of see the top of it. I'll get you guys up in there. There's plenty of space in there on the other side of that, and it's basically not visible and doesn't obstruct or change anything in here. And the filter is behind there, so when you change the oil, all you do is you take this off right here to change the oil in the air cleaner, right? You got to take that off anyway, so you just unclip these guys, and the oil filter is right behind it, and then just put a little drain pan underneath there. So that'll be nice. That will work really good, and you don't hardly even notice that it's in there. So it's accessible, it works, and you don't notice it, so that's cool. So I had to put a belt on here. Got one on here temporarily. It's a little loose, but I got to still, you know, this thing slides around, so got to tighten it up a little bit with a wrench. And you know, you can see how it's been beat up here and over here. It's like right here, it's all beat up, and right there, they probably took the belt off of this thing all the time and just put it back on and just rolled it back on for years, because you know, they didn't want to drive it around with that pump running all the time, even though it probably would be okay, but just around town. But on the highway, definitely, you know, the RPMs for a prolonged period of time, I'm sure that would not be good for the pump. So anyway, we'll take a drive in it and see how it works. And anyway, that's where we're at now. The thing I forgot to mention is when I started it, the flywheel was still rubbing. That's kind of normal if you do that, if you wallow out your flywheel like that. It was rubbing for about a minute, and then it just finds its home because it's a tight fit in there. If you try and grind everything out, you're going to be spending a lot of time back there, and you're probably, you know, you could, you know, like I was saying about that little machined edge, that first 1/4 inch or so needs to still be machined. You can take that little stair out of it all the way almost, but it's still a really tight tolerance. It's a very, you know, it's the 6-volt flywheel was already kind of tight in there, and then when you get a 12-volt one, and that between that and the other things, those are what was really kind of making it difficult to go in. So that, and then it would just hit the splines, and the splines are crap, you know, and they weren't lining up very good. I had to clean them and work them to get them to work, and with all those things together, it was just difficult to get the engine in. I knew it was going to be with this. See how tight it is here? If you can see that, you know that that's going to be a problem. It's only over, not even a whole 1/4 of an inch over to the side, you know. So anyway, it might be just see the horns are bent. It could be, you know, because I measured out pretty good. It was pretty close. So anyway, it's kind of weird, but it's just the way it is. Yeah, it's pretty exciting. I like to have the oil filter there. You know, spin it off and clean it. And I like where the fan's at. It's out of the way, and it still has plenty of air coming in from this vent right here. So I've got plenty of air coming in there, so we're good to go. Ready for a road trip. Well, I kept going under there going, oh, you need to adjust the clutch, you need to adjust the clutch. Well, I forgot. So I got to jack this thing up again. It's not fun to do. But anyway, definitely it's got more power, but still, it's still heavy. It doesn't move very well. But it's definitely way better than it was. I can tell it'll go freeway speeds at least now. It's hard to tell until I get on the freeway and drive it, believe me. It feels fine until you're on the freeway, then all of a sudden it's like, come on, baby. No power. And it's filthy. It's been sitting there for 6 months. Got to get a fuse for my fan. I got a relay that requires a fuse, and I can't find them anywhere, so I've been spending just nickel and dime through 2 or 3 days to get the engine in this thing. It won't get out of third going up this hill. It's about how I did before. It's a scary thought. I may have to unconstipate it to get it to work. It just may not have enough flow through that exhaust. I don't know. Okay, well, drive around and I'll let you know. After driving a little bit, it's a little choky going uphill, so I'm thinking maybe it's just too rich. That's what I'm thinking. I put that 130 in there, probably maybe at 127 or 125 for a single port. Anyway, may try that and see what happens next. I didn't get the chance to measure it to make sure it was a real 130 either, because I gotta look for my jet tool, so I gotta do some jetting. Got gas gauge isn't working anymore. Who knows what happened there. You know, all kinds of crap. The speedometer still doesn't work. It works after a while usually. It's weird, it's so stiff inside there. I've taken it apart 5 or 6 times and still haven't been able to get it to work. Okay, well, got tons of crap to do still. This thing's not roadworthy yet, so we'll have to reconvene. So unfortunately, I didn't get to film a lot of the stuff with this. It's just too hard setting up a camera here, and then it's real tight with this thing, headbanger, you know, and all that stuff. But anyway, so sorry I didn't bring you guys along for all the details and putting it in and out. It does fit pretty well in here. I was surprised. It's a little bit tight, like I thought it would be. You know, I really don't have any space here. So the engine finally went in after the last time. It just with 2 of us here, it was a lot easier. I have a head temp sensor here, and I broke the leads off of it, so that's wonderful. And I got to figure out how to fix that. So I have a head temp sensor in there. I'm going to put a head temp gauge on it. I have one already. I actually drilled it into the fins of the head so that I don't have to have it on the spark plug and take it on and off. It's a real pain to do that every time you put that spark plug in. So anyway, here's where we're at. So I went ahead and you guys saw I redrove it, and I'm sure the main jet was and why I always tell you guys, I found my jet sizing tool, checked all the jets that I had, and sometimes you get a brand new jet and it says it's like a 130 and it's a 140 or something. So you got to check them with the jet sizing tool. Also, show what it looks like. So this is what they look like. I think you get them from Empy. I don't know where I got it from. Maybe it didn't. But yeah, it just says all the sizes on it. Let's see if you can see it. Just in that little circle. Yeah, so there's a 125. And I found that some of the jets I had were way bigger than what they said they were. The 130 that I had in it was a real 130. It's too rich, so I could have went to 127, but I think it really needs like a lot less. So I went to 125. So we'll see how that does. I don't know if I'm going to do another drive in it right now. The weather does not look like it's going to hold, and I got my grandson here, so I can't really do that. Got some oil leak. The valve covers were leaking. I don't know what happened there, but I'm not sure. I may end up having to put valve cover vents on this thing. Put some, I don't know, breather system on it. Because remember, it has a 74 counterweighted crank. So it's got all that movement in there. And the RPMs, it's probably going to be running fairly high down the road, not bad, you know, probably be in the 3,000s, not in the 4,000s, but maybe the 36, 3,800, I don't know, at times. So yeah, I probably are gonna build up some crankcase pressure and if I do, then I'll pull the valve covers off. And I got an idea to, instead of running the thinking I might just put a T in and then run 2 down to the valve covers and then run right to this line here that's on here, so it looks like a factory hose, versus putting the breather box in behind the fan shroud, and see how that works. It might be enough. It shouldn't be that bad, you know, it shouldn't be that much crankcase pressure really, but because it's only 1800. The piston sizes make a big difference on that. So if you have like a 74 and you've got like 90.5s or 92s, it's definitely going to build crankcase pressure, because all the piston size going up and down is another part of it. So anyway, piston size, RPMs, you know, all those things all do it. And then I do have a road draft tube on this. I don't know if it originally did, but this one had one. So I went with that. It probably will. I'm thinking I might have to change that too, and then go with the one with the road draft tube and the air intake one, and then put a couple T's in there. I'll just run it around the backside of the fan shroud, and I'll put 2 T's, 1/2-inch T's in there, and then run one of them up to here, and that would probably take care of any kind of crankcase pressure issues. So anyway, that'll give it a little bit of a positive as it goes through there. It's sucking through there all the time, and especially with this bigger engine, it's going to have some pretty good airflow going through there. I don't think I'm going to put the heat riser on. I mean, the flapper's missing anyway, but that would go from right over here to back there. Just another tube. I'm running the 009 distributor because, again, I really don't need a vacuum advanced distributor, and I want it to be pointless, so be simple. Basically, this thing, if anything's wrong on the road, it'll let you know real quick, and you'll be broke down, and it's not going to be cheap to get it home. So anyway, you can't just do like you do in your normal bug and call AAA or whatever. No, they don't pick these up. They say this is commercial, so nope, ain't gonna happen. But Haggerty will, and then it's still you end up paying something, but it's still not bad. So anyway, yeah, she runs good. It just I noticed when I was getting on it, it was like no power, and I could feel it kind of stumbling, like, and it was starting to load up, and then you let off the gas, and it started to get more power. That was telling me it was way too rich. So if it's too lean, it'll stutter going up the hill doing this, and a little coffee spitty. But when you let off the gas, it won't speed up like that. When you let off the gas and it speeds up, it's going into the idle circuit, and the idle circuit's on the money because it's idling. Okay, so it's starting to find the idle circuit, and it's like, oh, this is better. So when I hit the gas harder, it was actually more stumbly, so it was actually too rich, I'm sure. So that's how I knew that. And the fan works good. It's on a relay with a fuse, so you could run it without the fuse, but I got the fuse on there too. 30 amp. It's probably never going to blow it. I'd rather have it not blow the fuse and burn the wire up if it happened. I don't think it will, but I'd rather have it, you know, too big a fuse and then have that fan not turn on going down the road. So that's why I went with a 30 amp on there. So anyway, I'm sure it's not going to be an issue. So anyway, and it's a 40 amp, 30 amp or 40 amp relay. So anyway, all right. So it does start fine with this battery. Because the issue on the stand was those small cables, the really small jumper cables. And as soon as I put it in here and I checked the battery, it was fine. It was just that basically the stand didn't have enough. Those jumper cables weren't cutting it. So anyway, all right. So that's it for now. We're going to be doing some other videos on this. Do some more driving videos and stuff coming up. So stay tuned and like the video, make sure, and share it anywhere you want, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that already. I'll talk to you in the next one.